You got the last number of the Manx newspaper?" he asked. The doctor produced it from the sideboard. Midwinter turned to the page containing those extracts from the recently published "Travels to Australia," which had roused Allan's interest on the previous evening, and the reading of which had ended by sending his friend to sleep. There, in the passage describing the sufferings of the travelers from thirst, and the subsequent discovery which saved their lives, there, appearing at the climax of the narrative, was the broad pool of water which had figured in Allan's dream. "Don't put away the paper," said the doctor, when Midwinter had shown it to him, with the necessary explanation. "Before we are at the end of the inquiry, it is quite possible we may want that extract again. We have got at the pool. How about the sunset? Nothing of that sort is referred to in the newspaper extract. Search your memory again, Mr. Armadale. We want your waking impression of a sunset, if you please." Once more Allan was at a loss for an answer, and once more Midwinter's ready memory helped him through the difficulty. "I think I can trace our way back to this impression, as I traced our way back to the other," he said, addressing the doctor. "After we got here yesterday afternoon, my friend and I took a long walk over the hills." "That's it," interposed Allan. "I remember. The sun was setting as we came back to the hotel for supper, and it was such a splendid red sky that we both stopped to look at it. And then we talked about Mr. Brock, and wondered how far he had got on his journey home. My memory may be a slow one at starting, doctor, but when it's once set going, stop it if you can. I haven't half done yet." "Wait 1 minute, in mercy to Mr. Midwinter's memory and mine," said the doctor. "We have traced back to your waking impressions the vision of the open country, the pool, and the sunset. But the shadow of a woman has not been accounted for yet. Can you find us the original of this mysterious figure in the dream landscape?" Allan relapsed into his former perplexity, and Midwinter waited for what was to come, with his eyes fixed in breathless interest on the doctor's face. For the first time there was unbroken silence in the room. Mr. Hawbury looked interrogatively from Allan to Allan's friend. Neither of them answered him. Between the shadow and the shadow's substance there was a great gulf of mystery, impenetrable alike to all three of them. "Patience," said the doctor, composedly. "Let us leave the figure by the pool for the present, and try, if we can't, pick her up again as we go on. Allow me to observe, Mr. Midwinter, that it is not very easy to identify a shadow, but we won't despair. This impalpable lady of the lake may take some consistency when we next meet her." Midwinter made no reply. From that moment his interest in the inquiry began to flag. "What is the next scene in the dream?" pursued Mr. Hawbury, referring to the manuscript. "Mr. Armadale finds himself in a room. He is standing before a long window opening on a lawn and flower garden, and the rain is pattering against the glass. The only thing he sees in the room is a little statue, and the only company he has is the shadow of a man standing opposite to him. The shadow stretches out its arm, and the statue falls in fragments on the floor, and the dreamer, in anger and distress at this catastrophe. Observe, gentlemen, that here the sleeper's reasoning faculty wakes up a little, and the dream passes rationally from a moment from cause to effect. Stoops to look at the broken pieces. When he looks up again, the scene has vanished. That is to say, in the ebb and flow of sleep, it is the turn of the flow now, and the brain rests a little. What's the matter, Mr. Armadale? Has that restive memory of yours run away with you again?" "Yes," said Allan. "I'm off at full gallop. I've run the broken statue to earth. It's nothing more nor less than a china shepherdess I knocked off the mantelpiece in the hotel coffee room when I rang the bell for supper last night. I say, how well we get on, don't we? It's like guessing a riddle. Now then, Midwinter, your turn next." "No," said the doctor. "My turn, if you please. I claim the long window, the garden, and the lawn as my property. You will find the long window, Mr. Armadale, in the next room. If you look out, you'll see the garden and lawn in front of it, and if you'll exert that wonderful memory of yours, you will recollect that you were good enough to take special and complimentary notice of my smart French window and my neat garden when I drove you and your friend to Port St. Mary yesterday." "Quite right," rejoined Allan. "So I did. But what about the rain that fell in the dream? I haven't seen a drop of rain for the last week." Mr. Hawbury hesitated. The Manx newspaper which had been left on the table caught his eye. "If we can think of nothing else," he said, "let us try if we can't get the idea of the rain where we found the idea of the pool." He looked through the extract carefully. "I have got it!" he exclaimed. "Here is rain described as having fallen on these thirsty Australian travellers before they discovered the pool. Behold the shower, Mr. Armadale, which got into your mind when you read the extract to your friend last night. And behold the dream, Mr. Midwinter, mixing up separate waking impressions just as usual." "Can you find the waking impression which accounts for the human figure at the window?" asked Midwinter. "Or are we to pass over the shadow of the man, as we have passed over the shadow of the woman already?" He put the question with scrupulous courtesy of manner, but with a tone of sarcasm in his voice which caught the doctor's ear, and set up the doctor's conversational bristles on the instant. "When you are picking up shells on the beach, Mr. Midwinter, you usually begin with the shells that lie nearest at hand," he rejoined. "We are picking up facts now, and those that are easiest to get at are the facts we will take first. Let the shadow of the man and the shadow of the woman pair off together for the present. We won't lose sight of them, I promise you. All in good time, my dear sir, all in good time." He too was polite, and he too was sarcastic. The short truce between the opponents was at an end already. Midwinter returned significantly to his former place by the window. The doctor instantly turned his back on the window more significantly still. Allan, who never quarreled with anybody's opinion, and never looked below the surface of anybody's conduct, drummed cheerfully on the table with the handle of his knife. "Go on, doctor," he called out. "My wonderful memory is as fresh as ever." "Is it?" said Mr. Hawbury, referring again to the narrative of the dream. "Do you remember what happened when you and I were gossiping with the landlady at the bar of the hotel last night?" "Of course I do. You were kind enough to hand me a glass of brandy and water, which the landlady had just mixed for your own drinking, and I was obliged to refuse it because, as I told you, the taste of brandy always turns me sick and faint, mix it how you please." "Exactly so," returned the doctor. "And here is the incident reproduced in the dream. You see the man's shadow and the woman's shadow together this time. You hear the pouring out of a liquid, brandy from the hotel bottle, and water from the hotel jug. The glass is handed by the woman's shadow, the landlady, to the man's shadow, myself. The man's shadow hands it to you, exactly what I did, and the faintness which you had previously described to me follows in due course. I am shocked to identify these mysterious appearances, Midwinter, with such miserly unromantic originals as a woman who keeps a hotel, and a man who physics a country district. But your friend himself will tell you that the glass of brandy and water was prepared by the landlady, and that it reached him by passing from her hand to mine. We have picked up the shadows exactly as I anticipated, and we have only to account now, which may be done in 2 words, for the manner of their appearance in the dream. After having tried to introduce the waking impression of the doctor and the landlady separately, in connection with the wrong set of circumstances, the dreaming mind comes right at the 3rd trial, and introduces the doctor and the landlady together, in connection with the right set of circumstances. There it is in a nutshell. Permit me to hand you back the manuscript, with my best thanks for your very complete and striking confirmation of the rational theory of dreams." Saying those words, Mr. Hawbury returned the written paper to Midwinter with the pitiless politeness of a conquering man. "Wonderful! Not a point missed anywhere from beginning to end. By Jupiter!" cried Allan, with the ready reverence of intense ignorance. "What a thing science is!" "Not a point missed, as you say," remarked the doctor complacently. "And yet I doubt if we have succeeded in convincing your friend." "You have not convinced me," said Midwinter, "but I don't presume on that account to say that you are wrong." He spoke quietly, almost sadly. The terrible conviction of the supernatural origin of the dream from which he had tried to escape had possessed itself of him again. All his interest in the argument was at an end. All his sensitiveness to its irritating influences was gone. In the case of any other man, Mr. Hawbury would have been mollified by such a concession as his